Chapter 1 dealt with the who and the when and the where of the story. Chapter 2 introduced us to the heights of Jean-Baptiste Clemens, what a great person he was, both in his profession as a lawyer in Paris and as a citizen out on the streets. Chapter 3 dealt with the fall of Jean-Baptiste Clemens in three ways. Number 1, the aftermath of a laughter on the bridge. Number 2, the aftermath of a road incident dealing with him getting punched. And number 3, the aftermath of a sexual relationship with a woman. Chapter 4 gave 9 ways of possibly dealing with this fall from grace and the vapidity of each of those 9 ways. And so now chapter 5 deals with 3 additional ways that Jean-Baptiste tried to deal with his guilt. And the first is through love. And he said that simply didn't work because he was 30 years old and he had made a lifelong practice of only loving himself. The women he tried to love, multiple women at one time, they all had an idea of love that they got from literature, I guess from romance novels. And so Jean-Baptiste Clemens says that the love that he had for himself and the love that these women expected of him were so far away from each other that he could never actually be in love with a woman, and he didn't know what that meant, and he just couldn't do it. So failing actual romantic love, life became very, very empty, and now going someplace without a date became very, very boring. And he said, I might have been finally in the right. I might have finally been doing the right thing, but the truth is dreadfully awful and dreadfully boring. So searching for transcendence, for forgiveness, for righteousness, for expiation, when you can't find love romantically, the next best thing is debauchery. And looking for immortality, he could briefly find it in just mere sexual liaisons, and he mixed that, of course, with alcohol. And the point of both drinking and sex was to experience something beyond what this mortal coil can give us, and that is immortality. And so very predictably, that both worked and it didn't work. It worked for a little bit, but like all addiction cycles, you need more and more to just feel the same until eventually, no matter how much you partake, you can't ever get the same high that you once got. And the mornings left him with literally a bitter taste in his mouth, feeling empty, feeling unloved, feeling absolutely terrible. And then he points out, ironically, what ended up happening is the drinking almost ruined my liver. And so the very thing that I was trying to experience, immortality, was actually making me even more mortal. So he seems dejected, and again we find him out on the water. This time he's on a cruise liner, and he looks out into the water and sees a black speck and is worried that again someone is drowning in the water, only to look more closely and figure out that it's just jetsam, it's just refuse, it's just trash behind the boat. But again, that reminds him of the original incident on the bridge, and it shows him that none of this is working. The 9 things from the last chapter aren't working. Love, lust, and drinking aren't working. Nothing is silencing the scream of guilt. So what's left? Well, he brings up a Middle Ages torture device called the little e's, where the dimensions of the thing were so that the person could neither stand up nor could the person lay down. The person had to be hunched down. And so if you remember the first 2 chapters and Jean-Baptiste Clemens saying that he always had to be up to indicate that he was above people, well, he decided to just give up on that and now just hunch down in this little e's. To never be fully at rest, never to have his arms extended in victory, but rather be a hunched over penitent. And so obviously a glaring omission of the novel has been his reference to religion. And I guess, quote, you ask him about religion. Well, what about God's judgment? What about the final judgment? And he says, well, that's exactly where religions go astray, because you don't need religion to have guilt and punishment and judges. In fact, humans are much more vicious than any God would ever be. Humans are performing something worse than the last judgment on each other each and every day. The only thing that religion would be good for is grace, is forgiveness, is expiation, but rather people use God's name. And so then he does a little digression on Jesus and his cross, and he says that even Jesus is guilty, and that's one of the reasons, on top of the reasons that Christians identify. Another reasons that Christians hide is that Jesus was guilty. Well, how was Jesus guilty? You may ask Jean-Baptiste Clements, and this John the Baptist figure will say, well, the slaughter of the innocents. So you go back to the birth of Christ, and King Herod is threatened by someone that wise men are coming and giving gifts to and calling him the king of the Jews. He's threatened by that, and so the only way to exterminate Jesus is to exterminate all the 2-year-old boys and below born in Bethlehem. So all these, 20, 25 baby boys in Bethlehem are slaughtered because Jesus exists. And so he says that explains Jesus' attitude for the rest of the Gospels. You can see why Jesus is so dejected, because he has the blood of the innocents on his hands. Now, it's common for atheists, it's common for people who don't believe in Christianity to use this argument, it's called a theodicy, or the problem of evil, that Christians want to say two things: that God is sovereign, that God is perfect, and so he's in control of everything, and he's all good. And critics of Christianity will say, well, you can't have both of those things. You can choose one, but the other, in the face of evil and suffering, the other can't be. And Christians and other theists deal with that problem in certain ways. But it's interesting that Camus does it, but he doesn't actually put the blame on Jesus as an adult. So God allowed these innocents to suffer, and so Jesus is imputed with that guilt. And so anyway, Camus' point is that even Jesus isn't innocent, and therefore, if Jesus isn't innocent, there's no soap to cleanse our faces. So maybe years 30 to 33 of Jesus' ministry, yes, maybe then before there was a religion called Christianity, when it was Jesus and the followers of the way, Jesus and his disciples, maybe then there was soap, but only then was there soap. And now Christianity has been turned on its head by its followers, and people don't follow Christ, who would whisper to an adulterer, I don't condemn you. Now his followers have jumped up on the cross, not to take sins, but to be better than other people and to use judgment. So neither love nor lust nor religion will take away the stain. And so what will? Well, it's to be hunched down in his littleese position, hunched down as a judge penitent. What's a judge penitent? Well, we've asked that every single chapter, and he's refused to answer. Now, he's hinted at the answer in every chapter, but we don't have a clear idea until we finish the novel in chapter 6 what a judge penitent is. Now, back in chapter 4, my camera was falling at the end of the video, and I wanted to just press stop. But back in chapter 4, the 9 ways to deal with guilt, those were bookended both at the beginning and the end of the chapter by, again, a reference to doves, to the sky being foggy. That is mentioned again in the middle of chapter 5. So don't forget that theme as well as you conclude the novel, The Fall.